The air inside room 304 of the Vrije Hospital in Amsterdam smelled heavily of disinfectant and stale tea. On the small bedside table, a thick stack of documents lay pinned under a heavy glass water pitcher. At the top of the first page, printed in bold Dutch and English, were the words, "Voluntary Euthanasia Authorization Form." My fingers trembled slightly as I held the black ballpoint pen. 8 years of chemotherapy, targeted drug cocktails, and endless surgical scars had left my knuckles swollen and translucent. I could see the faint blue veins throb against my pale skin with every heartbeat, each one a slow countdown. Dr. Lucas, my attending physician, stood across from the bed with his hands folded in his lab coat pockets. His expression was respectful, yet heavy with the familiar exhaustion of a doctor who had run out of miracles. "Miss Quinn Roberts, Dr. Lucas said gently, his English carrying a soft Dutch cadence. "I need to ask you one last time for the official record. You are executing this agreement of your own free will, without external pressure, correct?" "Yes, Dr. Lucas," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, rough from the tumor pressing against my windpipe. "I'm fully aware of what I'm signing. And you understand that once the second stage protocol is initiated tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., the process is completely irreversible?" "I understand," I replied, clicking the pen cap off. 8 years is enough. I just want to rest. I signed my name on the final line, Quinn Roberts. Dr. Lucas took the paper, checked the timestamp, and nodded silently before leaving the room. The door shut with a soft click, cutting off the low murmur of the hallway. Just as I leaned my head back against the thin white pillow, the cheap prepaid cell phone on the nightstand vibrated violently. It buzzed against the hard laminate surface, the screen flashing an unfamiliar international number with a Los Angeles area code. My heart skipped a beat. Only one person had this number, and he hadn't called it in 3 years. I slid the green button across the screen and brought the phone to my ear. I didn't say a word. "Quinn?" The voice was deeper than I remembered, polished by years of vocal training and public speeches, but beneath the slick confidence, the sharp edge was unmistakable. It was Eric Vance. "It's me," I said, keeping my voice steady. A cold, bitter laugh erupted from the receiver. "You actually picked up. I was 50% sure you had changed your number again after draining whatever idiot you picked after me. What do you want, Eric?" I asked, looking out the rain-streaked window at the dull gray sky of Amsterdam. "What do I want?" Eric's voice grew louder, background noise rustling, applause, camera flashes, the unmistakable atmosphere of a high-end Hollywood after-party. "I wanted to make sure you were watching the news today, Quinn. Did you see the Golden Globe broadcast? Best Actor in a Dramatic Series. They handed me the trophy 20 minutes ago." "I didn't see it." "Congratulations," I said softly. "Don't give me your fake congratulations," he snapped, his composure slipping instantly into white-hot anger. "Do you remember what you told me 8 years ago when you packed your bags and walked out of our basement apartment in Chicago? You looked me dead in the eye and said I was a nobody. You said you were tired of eating dollar store noodles and waiting for a man who would never amount to anything." I closed my eyes, my hand tightening on the edge of the bedsheet. The sharp pain in my upper abdomen spiked, a burning sensation tearing through my organs as the morphine began to wear off. "I remember," I choked out, pressing my left hand hard against my side to suppress a cough. "You left me for that rich old producer, didn't you?" Eric taunted, his tone dripping with venom. "You traded me for a penthouse in Europe and a designer handbag. Well, guess what? I bought 3 houses in Bel Air this morning. I have script offers piling up on my kitchen counter. I made it, Quinn. Without you." He paused, waiting for me to cry, to beg, or to regret. He wanted to hear the devastation in my voice. He wanted the satisfaction of knowing he had broken the woman who he believed had crushed his soul. He didn't know that 8 years ago, the doctor had given me 6 months to live. He didn't know that the rich old producer was an alias I made up with a friend to force him to hate me, so he would focus on his acting auditions instead of watching me wither away in a hospital bed. "I'm happy for you, Eric," I said quietly, a tear escaping the corner of my eye and soaking into the pillowcase. "You deserve all of it. Stop acting so indifferent." Eric yelled into the phone, the clinking of champagne glasses audible in the background. "Where are you right now? Are you living in your husband's grand villa? Are you enjoying your luxurious life?" I looked at the clear 4-tubing dripping saline into my arm, at the heart monitor blinking quietly in the corner, and at the tray of bitter palliative medication beside my bed. "I'm at the platform," I lied smoothly, my voice barely a whisper. "At the Spring mailbox station." Watching the snow fall. Spring mailbox? What kind of ridiculous lie is that? Eric sneered. You always were a terrible writer, Quinn. Always making up romantic trash. A sudden, unbearable violent spasm racked my chest. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I pulled the phone away and coughed violently into a paper napkin. Dark, copper-tasting blood filled my mouth, spilling over my lips and staining the white linen. Quinn? What was that noise? Eric asked, his tone dropping slightly, a flick of sudden hesitation crossing his voice. I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, breathing heavily, my vision turning dark around the edges. Nothing, I panted, forcing a faint smile into the microphone. Just cold air. Goodbye, Eric. Enjoy your trophy. Wait, Quinn. Don't you dare hang up on me. I pressed the red end call button and immediately powered off the phone, dropping it onto the floor. It clattered against the linoleum and rolled under the bed. The emergency heart monitor beside my bed suddenly began to beep rapidly, the rhythm erratic and sharp. Red lights flashed across the screen as my oxygen levels plummeted. The door swung open, and 2 nurses rushed in, followed by Dr. Lucas. Her vitals are crashing. Internal hemorrhage in the upper GI tract. A nurse yelled in Dutch, grabbing the suction tube. Quinn, stay with us. Dr. Lucas called out, shining a small penlight into my dilating pupils. Hold on, the scheduled time is tomorrow. I couldn't speak. On the muted television mounted on the wall across from my bed, a live entertainment news broadcast showed Eric Vance standing on a red carpet under bright camera flashes. He was holding his gold trophy high in the air, wearing a $1 million smile, looking every bit the superstar he was born to be. My eyes slowly lost focus. Darkness closed in from every corner, drowning out the shouting nurses, the flashing red lights, and the image of the man I loved celebrating his victory across the ocean. The emergency stabilization took 3 grueling hours. When I opened my eyes again, the bright morning light was cutting through the blinds. Dr. Lucas stood at the foot of my bed, reviewing my chart with a grim expression. You got lucky, Quinn, Dr. Lucas said, putting the clipboard down. The internal bleeding stopped, but your liver function is rapidly dropping. If you still want to go through with the scheduled procedure tonight at 8 p.m., you cannot afford any more emotional stress. I know, I muttered, my lips dry and cracked. Thank you, doctor. Before he could leave, a sharp knock echoed from the heavy wooden door. A young woman stepped into the room, holding a battered leather briefcase and looking utterly exhausted. It was Lily, my editor from the independent publishing house in New York. Lily? I blinked in disbelief. What are you doing in Amsterdam? I took the first flight out of JFK last night, Lily said, pulling up a chair and sitting beside me. She looked at my frail frame, her eyes instantly brimming with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. A movie studio just offered $2 million for the screen rights to your web novel, Spring Mailbox. They want you to sign the contract today. I forced a weak laugh. $2 million? For an unfinished story about a girl lying to the man she loves? They don't care that it's unfinished, Quinn. The readers are going crazy over it, Lily said, pulling a tablet from her bag and turning it toward me. The tragic romance angle is trending everywhere. But that's not the real reason I flew all the way here. She tapped the screen, opening a viral video clip from a high-end bar in Los Angeles. In the video, recorded just hours after the Golden Globes, Eric Vance was slumping against a marble bar counter, holding a glass of scotch. He was completely wasted, his expensive tuxedo jacket tossed carelessly over a bar stool. Surrounding paparazzi were shouting questions, but he ignored them all, staring intently at an old, worn-out photograph in his wallet. Is she in Europe? Eric yelled at his manager in the video, slamming his glass onto the counter hard enough to shatter the base. Find her. I don't care if it costs $10 million. Search every hotel, every penthouse, every goddamn city in Europe. Tell Quinn if she doesn't face me in person, I'll buy out her husband's entire company and ruin him. The manager tried to pull him away, but Eric shoved him back violently, eyes bloodshot and full of unhinged rage. She told me she was at Spring Mailbox Station. What the hell does that even mean? Find her. The video ended. Lily locked the tablet and looked at me with deep concern. He posted a $10 million bounty on social media this morning, Lily whispered. He's offering it to anyone who can give him your current address. Quinn. He thinks you're living a lavish life with a rich husband. He has no idea you've been in this hospital for years. Let him believe what he wants, I said softly, staring up at the ceiling. It's better if he hates me. Why didn't you ever tell him? Lily's voice cracked. In your novel, the female lead makes up a rich guy and a fake life with a dog and a garden just to push the hero away. You wrote those chapters word for word from your own life, didn't you? All those details about the golden retriever and the porch. Those were the dreams you two talked about in that tiny basement apartment, weren't they? A heavy silence hung in the room. I didn't answer. When Eric and I were 22, freezing in that miserable Chicago basement, we used to share a single blanket and talk about what we'd do when we made it. He promised he'd buy me a house with a porch and a golden retriever named Sam. I promised him I'd write stories for his movies. When I got my diagnosis, I knew his acting career would end before it started if he stayed to take care of me. So I gave him a villain to hate instead of a dying girl to pity. My cheap prepaid phone, which the nurse had picked up from the floor and placed back on the nightstand, started buzzing again. Lily glanced at the screen. It's him again. Give it to me, I said. Quinn, don't, Lily started, but I reached out and took the phone from her hand. I answered and placed it on speakerphone, setting it on the blanket between us. Quinn. Eric's voice came through, jagged and frantic, devoid of the Hollywood polish from the night before. Where are you? I know you're in Europe. My investigators are checking every major city right now. You can't hide from me forever. Eric, I said smoothly, my voice cold and devoid of emotion. Stop wasting your money. Wasting my money? He laughed hysterically. 10 million is nothing to me now. I will find you, Quinn. I want to look at your face when you see what I've become. I want you to tell me to my face that you don't regret leaving me. I don't regret it, I lied quietly. Not for a single second. You're lying. He roared. If you don't regret it, why did you talk about Spring Mailbox? That was the title of the script you were writing when we were broke. Why did you bring that up? Across the bed, Dr. Lucas walked back into the room holding a clipboard, accompanied by 2 medical techs carrying in 4 stand with the lethal dose preparation. Dr. Lucas looked at his watch, then turned to me. Mevrouw Roberts, Dr. Lucas spoke clearly in Dutch, unaware the phone was on speaker. De autorisatie van de euthanasie is afgerond. Which beginnen over 5 minuten met de voorbereiding. Miss Roberts, the euthanasia authorization is finalized. We will begin preparations in 5 minutes. On the other end of the line, Eric went completely dead silent. Quinn. Eric's voice drifted through the speaker, suddenly thin, trembling with a sudden, unexplainable chill. Who was that? Who's speaking Dutch in the background? What did he just say? Silence hung heavy over the line. I immediately pressed the red button, terminating the call before Eric could say another word. My fingers trembled as I handed the phone back to Lily. You should have told him, Lily whispered, her voice choking up. He's going to find out anyway, Quinn. If his private investigators track down this clinic. He won't, I interrupted calmly, forcing my breathing to steady. My medical records are sealed under Dutch privacy law under an alias. To the rest of the world, Quinn Roberts doesn't exist in Amsterdam. Dr. Lucas stepped closer, his face grave as he looked down at his tablet. Mevrouw Roberts, we need to begin the final 4 setup. The panel has given final authorization for 8 p.m. tonight. Are you still certain about your decision? I am, I said without hesitation. Lily buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking silently. I reached over and patted her arm softly. Lily, signed a movie rights deal with the studio today. Take the $2 million. Half goes to my medical debt, and the rest goes to the Youth Theater Foundation in Chicago. Don't leave anything for Eric. He doesn't want your money, Quinn. Lily looked up, eyes red-rimmed. He's losing his mind. Look at the news right now. She turned her phone toward me. Live news banners were flashing across major entertainment outlets. Superstar Eric Vance cancels world press tour mid-flight. Private jet rerouted to Europe. A reporter on screen was speaking frantically. Sources confirm that Oscar winner Eric Vance abruptly walked out of his post-award press conference, boarded his private Gulfstream at LAX, and demanded a direct flight to Europe. Eyewitnesses claim Vance was frantically translating Dutch phrases on his phone while boarding. My chest tightened with a sharp, familiar pain. He was coming. He recognized the word, I murmured, staring at the screen. He spent 2 years filming an indie movie in Belgium early in his career. He knows basic Dutch. He's not stupid, Quinn, Lily said, grabbing my hand. He translated euthanasie. He knows what it means. He's landing in Schiphol Airport in 5 hours. Then I have 5 hours to finish my final chapter, I said, leaning back against the stark white pillows. Lily, give me your laptop. Quinn, you're too weak. Give me the laptop, I repeated, my tone firm. If Eric is going to tear Europe apart looking for me, I'm going to give him the answer in the story. Reluctantly, Lily pulled her laptop from her bag and set it on my lap. My trembling fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before I opened the publishing portal for Spring Mailbox. The draft for Chapter 30, the final chapter, was sitting empty. I began to type, the keys clicking rapidly in the quiet room. When you read this, the train at Spring Mailbox Station will have already departed. You spent 5 years hating a woman who walked away with another man. But there was no rich husband. There was no mansion with a porch. There was only a 6x8 room, a sterile bed, and a promise I made to myself that I would never drag you down into my grave. As I typed, my phone on the nightstand blew up with notifications. Hundreds of text messages and missed calls from Eric were flooding in. Eric, where are you? Which hospital is it? Eric, tell me you're not doing this. Answer me, Quinn. Eric, I don't care about the money. I don't care about the Oscars. Just pick up the phone. I ignored them all, continuing to type the final paragraphs of my manuscript. Lily stood by the window, watching the rainy afternoon sky over Amsterdam. His jet just entered European airspace, Lily said softly, checking her flight tracker app. He'll be on the ground in 45 minutes. His security team has already hired 3 local private agencies in the city. It doesn't matter, I whispered, hitting publish on the final chapter. It's online now. At 7:15 p.m., 45 minutes before my scheduled procedure, the door to the ward burst open. But it wasn't Eric, it was his personal manager, Mark, drenched in rain and gasping for breath, surrounded by 2 Dutch hospital security guards trying to restrain him. Quinn! Mark shouted, recognizing me through the glass partition. He's at the front gate. Eric's at the front gate. The press followed him from the airport, and there are cameras everywhere. I looked at Mark, my face pale and serene. Tell him to go back to Los Angeles, Mark. He read the chapter on the plane. Mark's voice cracked with pure terror as the guards grabbed his arms. He read what you published. Quinn, he tried to jump out of the moving car at the hospital entrance. He's screaming your name in the rain outside right now. The security guards shoved Mark back toward the hallway, but Mark planted his feet, desperately gripping the frame of the glass door. Quinn, you can't do this to him. Mark screamed over the noise of hospital staff rushing down the corridor. He tore through 3 airport security checkpoints. The local cops are threatening to arrest him, but he won't move from the gate. He's bleeding, Quinn. He broke his hand punching the window of the car. I looked away, staring fixedly at the digital clock on the wall. 7:35 p.m. 25 minutes remaining. Mark, take him away, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, though my words carried a cold finality. If he gets arrested, clear his name. Don't let his career die because of me. His career? Mark let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. He doesn't give a damn about his career anymore. He threw his Golden Globe trophy into the trash at LAX. He told his agent he's retiring from acting tonight. Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She ran to the window and pushed aside the heavy drapes. Down on the street, far below our 4-story wing, flashing red and blue police lights illuminated the heavy downpour. Dozens of news vans and paparazzi were clustered near the main wrought iron gate. Right in the middle of them stood a solitary figure in a soaked black tuxedo, arguing wildly with 3 uniformed police officers blocking the entrance. Quinn. Lily's voice trembled violently. He's trying to fight the guards. He's on his knees, Quinn. Eric Vance is on his knees in front of all those cameras. My chest throbbed with a suffocating, unbearable weight. I gripped the bedsheet so tightly my knuckles turned stark white. Dr. Lucas, I said, turning my face toward the physician. Can we start early? Dr. Lucas paused, exchanging an uneasy glance with his assistant. The legal framework specifies 8 p.m., Mevro Roberts. We must adhere strictly to the schedule. Suddenly, the heavy door at the end of the corridor slammed open with a loud bang, followed by shouting in Dutch and the chaotic clatter of footsteps. The security team hadn't been able to hold the perimeter. Eric had broken past the lobby checkpoints. He appeared at the glass doors of my private room, soaked through, his wet hair plastered to his forehead. Rain mixed with dirt smeared across his pale face, and blood was dripping from his right hand onto the polished linoleum floor. Quinn! He yelled, slamming both hands against the glass partition. Open the door. Quinn, open this goddamn door. The hospital guards caught up to him from behind, tackling him against the glass. Eric didn't even fight back against them, His eyes were fixed entirely on me, wide, frantic, and filled with a raw, agonizing desperation I had never seen in him before. I read it. Eric screamed, his voice cracking and tearing as the guards pinned his arms behind his back. I read chapter 30. There was no rich guy. There was no golden retriever. You lied to me. You made me hate you for 5 years while you were dying in this hellhole. I sat up slowly, forcing my expression to remain completely motionless, cold, and detached. I didn't lie, Eric, I said quietly into the intercom mounted on the wall beside my bed. You wanted an excuse to leave Chicago and pursue your dreams. I just gave you one. That's bullshit. He roared, tears cutting clear tracks through the grime on his face. I would have given up everything. I would have quit acting. I would have worked 3 jobs to pay for your treatments. Why didn't you let me choose? Because you would have hated me eventually, I replied coldly. You would have watched your youth fade away in a hospital room, watching other actors take the roles meant for you. You would have grown to resent me. I saved us both from that. You didn't save me. Eric hit his head against the glass, sobbing openly now, completely unbothered by the security personnel pinning him down. You destroyed me. Every award I won, every movie I made. I thought I was proving something to you. I thought I was showing you what you gave up. But it was all a joke. It was all a sick fucking joke. The digital clock on the wall clicked forward. 7:55 p.m. 5 minutes. Dr. Lucas walked over to the door and unlocked it slightly, speaking sternly to the guards outside. Let him step inside for 3 minutes. Only him. The guards hesitated, then released Eric. He stumbled into the room, bringing the smell of cold rain and wet wool with him. He dropped to his knees beside my bed, grabbing my thin, icy hand and pressing it tightly against his cheek. Don't do this, Quinn, he sobbed, his body shaking violently. Please. I have money now. Millions of dollars. We can fly in the best surgeons from Johns Hopkins, from Mayo Clinic. Anywhere in the world. Just give me a chance. I reached out my other hand, lightly touching his soaked hair, feeling the familiar texture I had missed for 5 long years. But my voice remained steady. It's too late, Eric, I said softly. My organs are failing. There are no surgeries left. Then let me stay with you, he pleaded, looking up at me with shattered eyes. If there's no cure, then just let me hold your hand until the end. Don't push me out of the room again. Please, Quinn. Don't make me spend the rest of my life hating myself. I looked into his eyes, and for the first time in 5 years, the icy shield I had built around my heart finally crumbled. The digital clock on the wall clicked silently to 7:57 p.m. 3 minutes remaining. Eric kept holding my hand, his head rested heavily against the edge of the mattress. The shivering in his shoulders slowly subsided, replaced by a quiet, desperate stillness. I was so angry at you, Eric whispered, his voice hoarse and raw. When I got that manuscript in the mail, I thought you were gloating. I thought you wanted me to see how happy you were with someone else. I know, I said softly, my thumb gently brushing across his blood-stained knuckles. That was the point. You asshole, he choked out, letting out a weak, broken laugh. You absolute asshole, Quinn. You let me believe you traded me in for a penthouse and a dog. A golden retriever, I corrected, a faint trace of a smile touching my lips for the first time in months. His name was supposed to be Barnaby. I hated that dog, Eric muttered, leaning up to look into my eyes. I hated him for 2 full hours on the plane until Mark read the last line of the chapter aloud. Dr. Lucas stepped forward, checking his pocket watch before looking down at me with solemn compassion. Mevro Roberts, Dr. Lucas said quietly. It is 7:58 p.m. We need to prepare the 4-line. If you wish to suspend the procedure, you must state so clearly now. Eric's grip on my fingers tightened instantly, so hard it nearly cut off my circulation. Quinn, look at me, Eric demanded, his eyes searching mine frantically. Tell him to stop. Please. You don't have to do this tonight. Give me 1 week. Let me stay in Amsterdam with you for 1 week. Eric, I said gently, looking back at him without a single trace of hesitation. My body is already failing. Dr. Lucas told me last night that without the medication, I won't make it to next Tuesday anyway. It will just be painful. Painful for me, and unbearable for you to watch. I don't care about the pain. Eric shouted, tears spilling over his cheeks again. I can take it. Let me be here with you. I care, I replied softly. I've fought this disease for 5 years alone, Eric. I'm tired. I just want to rest. Eric stared at me, his jaw trembling, unable to form words. He saw the complete stillness in my eyes and knew there was no argument left that could change my mind. Is there anything left you didn't write in that book? Eric asked quietly, his voice barely audible. Chapter 31, I whispered. I wrote it last week, but I didn't mail it to you. Where is it? I motioned toward Lily, who was standing by the window weeping silently. Lily quickly opened her handbag, pulled out a thin leather notebook, and handed it to Eric. It's the ending, I told him. Read it after I'm gone. Not before. Dr. Lucas brought the four-stand closer to the bedside and checked the seals on the solution bags. 7:59 p.m., Mevro Roberts. We are ready. Mark stepped up behind Eric, putting a firm hand on his shoulder. Eric. Let her have her piece. Eric didn't pull away this time. He sat on the edge of the bed, leaning down until his forehead rested against mine. His warm breath mixed with the chill air of the hospital room. I love you, Quinn, he whispered, his tears dropping onto my cheek. I never stopped loving you. Not for a single second in 5 years. I know, I murmured, feeling the heavy burden in my chest finally lighten. I love you too, Eric. Now go win another trophy. The clock clicked to 8 p.m. Dr. Lucas turned the valve on the 4-tube, and a cool sensation began to flow slowly into my vein. The room fell into absolute silence. The only sound left was the steady, rhythmic beep of the heart monitor slowly dragging out its final beats. Eric held my hand through every second, refusing to loosen his grip even as my breathing grew shallow and distant. He kept his eyes locked on mine until the long, continuous tone filled the room at 8:07 p.m. Time of death, 20:07, Dr. Lucas announced quietly, switching off the monitor interface. Lily covered her face, stepping out into the hallway as tears overwhelmed her. Mark pulled out his phone, sending a quick text before turning toward Eric, who remained completely motionless beside the bed. Eric, Mark said softly, placing a hand on his trembling shoulder. The press is lining up outside the hospital entrance. The police are asking us to clear out before the reporters break through the lower gates. Eric didn't answer immediately. He slowly reached down, brushed a strand of hair off my forehead, and pressed a gentle kiss to my cheek. Then he stood up, taking the thin leather notebook Lily had left on the bedside table. Tell the driver to meet us at the side exit, Eric said, his voice terrifyingly calm. I don't care about the press. 20 minutes later, in the back seat of a black SUV cutting through the heavy midnight rain toward the airport, Eric opened the notebook. The pages were covered in my messy, uneven handwriting, written over my final weeks in Amsterdam. Chapter 31, The Last Letter, Eric read under his breath, his voice catching in his throat. Mark sat quietly beside him, keeping his eyes on the road ahead. Dear Eric, the manuscript read. If you are reading this, it means I successfully kept my promise. I didn't drag you down into the dark with me. 5 years ago, when the doctor gave me 6 months to live, I sat in our tiny apartment in Chicago watching you count quarters to pay for my prescriptions. You had auditions lined up, but you were skipping them to take extra shifts at the diner. You were giving up your life for someone who was already fading away. A tear hit the paper, smudging the ink on the next line. I knew you would never leave me if I asked you to go. So I had to make you hate me. I hired an actor to pretend to be my new lover. I lied about the money. I lied about the life I wanted. I made sure every word hurt enough to tear us apart completely. Every trophy you won, every headline I saw with your name over the last 5 years, I cut them out and kept them in a wooden box under my hospital bed. I watched you become the star you were always meant to be. That was my medicine, Eric. That was what kept me breathing for 5 whole years instead of 6 months. Don't retire from acting. Don't throw away what we paid so dearly to build. Live a long, brilliant life, and when you step onto those big stages, know that I am somewhere in the crowd, cheering for you like I always did. Goodbye, my love. Eric closed the notebook and held it tightly against his chest. He looked out the window at the rain-slicked streets of Amsterdam, a quiet determination settling over his tear-stained face. Mark, Eric said, his voice steady now, filled with a renewed, fierce clarity. Yeah, Eric? Call my agent. Tell him I'm taking the role in London next month. He paused, looking back down at the notebook in his lap. And tell him I'm dedicating every award I ever win for the rest of my life to Quinn Roberts. The bright lights of the Dolby Theatre flashed across the auditorium as the presenter stepped up to the podium, opening the golden envelope. And the Oscar for Best Actor goes to. The presenter smiled into the camera. Eric Vance, for The Spring Mailbox. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Eric stood up from his seat in the front row, wearing a tailored black tuxedo. He adjusted his collar, shook hands with his director, and walked up the stairs to the stage with a steady, grounded step. He accepted the heavy gold statuette, took a breath, and stepped up to the microphone. The room went silent, waiting for his speech. "Thank you to the Academy, to my director, and to the incredible cast and crew who brought this story to life," Eric began, his voice calm, clear, and resonant across the packed theater. He paused, looking down at the statuette in his hand before glancing directly into the main television camera lens. 8 years ago, I was broke, working double shifts at a diner in Chicago, trying to figure out how to keep going, Eric said softly. The person who believed in me when I had absolutely nothing sacrificed everything she had so I could stand on this stage tonight. In the audience, Mark smiled faintly, adjusting his jacket, while Lily wiped away a stray tear. "She wrote a story that broke my heart, but it also saved my life," Eric continued, his eyes shining under the stage lights. "Quinn, if you're watching from somewhere out there, we made it. This one is for you." The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation as Eric held the trophy high in the air. 2 weeks later, far away from the glamour of Los Angeles, Eric walked down a quiet, cobblestone street in Amsterdam. The spring air was crisp, carrying the soft fragrance of blooming flowers along the canals. He stopped in front of a small, wooden post box mounted beside the front door of a quiet hospice home overlooking the water. Inside the post box lay a single white envelope addressed to Quinn Roberts. Eric pulled a pen from his coat pocket, signed his name on the back of his Oscar speech transcript, and dropped it into the slot. "Promise kept, Quinn," he whispered into the gentle spring breeze. He turned around, zipped up his coat, and walked back down the canal street, a peaceful smile finally resting on his face as the sun broke through the morning clouds.